5 years had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic politics. Captain Ben Rogers stood on the bridge of the UES Independence, one of the few human ships still operating in what used to be Council space. His mission was not diplomacy in the old sense, but something much more selective. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Deltan government," his communications officer reported. "Put it through," Ben replied. A desperate alien face appeared on the screen. "Captain Rogers, please, our people are dying. The plague has returned and we still cannot make the nanomedicine work. We will give you anything, everything we have." Looked at the alien with cold eyes. "What do you have that we want?" "Our art collections, our music libraries, our historical archives. All of it." "We'll consider your offer," Ben said. "But remember, we are not here to save you. We are here to see if you are worth saving." The transmission ended. Ben turned to his first officer, Commander Janet Mills. "What do you think, Janet?" "The Deltans have been peaceful for the past 5 years," she replied. "No attacks on human interests, no support for anti-human factions. They might be worth a limited partnership." Ben nodded. This was how humanity operated now. They did not help everyone like they used to. They carefully chose who deserved their help and who did not. On Earth, Director Nicole Sanders was overseeing the Human Colonial Expansion Project from her office in Geneva. The holographic map in front of her showed the galaxy in a way that would have been impossible 5 years ago. Blue dots marked human colonies. There were thousands of them now, spread across the galaxy. Red dots marked the remains of the old Council worlds. There were far fewer red dots than there used to be. "Status report," Nicole asked her assistant. "Expansion Phase 7 is complete," the assistant replied. "We now control 43% of the galaxy's habitable worlds. The old Council controls less than 20%. Nicole smiled. "What about population numbers?" "Human population has tripled since withdrawal. We now number over 15 billion across all colonies. Meanwhile, the total alien population in former Council space has dropped to about 2 billion. The numbers told the story clearly. While humanity had been growing and expanding, the alien civilizations had been shrinking and collapsing. Some had been destroyed by wars, others by economic collapse, and many by simple technological regression. On the abandoned world of Nexus Prime, the old Galactic Council chamber sat empty and dark. Vextar, the former Council chair, lived alone, in the ruins of what had once been the galaxy's center of power. He received few visitors now. Most of his former colleagues were dead or had fled to safer worlds. Today's visitor was different, though. Ambassador Claire Watson had come to see him. "Claire," Vextar said sadly as she entered his simple quarters. "I never thought I would see a human on Nexus Prime again." "Hello, Vextar," Claire replied. She looked around at the bare room. "This is quite a change from your old office." "Everything changed when your people left," Vextar said. "We thought we were the center of galactic civilization. We learned we were just the center of human charity." Claire sat down across from him. "We didn't come here to gloat, Vextar. We came here with an offer." Vextar's eyes widened. "An offer?" The remaining Council worlds have requested that humanity return to lead the galaxy," Claire said. "They're offering complete political control to human authority." Vextar could hardly believe what he was hearing. "And your response?" Claire was quiet for a long moment. "President Webb asked me to deliver this message personally." She stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the empty Council plaza. "For 30 years, humanity tried to be your diplomats, your mediators, your conscience. We tried to help you build something better than what you had before. You threw it away because it was profitable to throw it away." She turned back to face Vextar. "Now you want us to come back and fix what you broke. But we're not the same humans who left 5 years ago. We learned some hard lessons while you were learning yours." "What lessons?" Vextar asked quietly. "That helping someone who doesn't want to be helped is just wasting your time. That being merciful to those who show no mercy just encourages more cruelty. That sharing your strength with the weak just makes everyone weaker." Vextar felt a cold fear growing in his chest. So you won't help us? We didn't say that, Claire replied. But if we come back, it won't be as your equals. It won't be as your servants. It will be as your rulers. She walked toward the door, then paused. The old galaxy is dead, Vextar. The galaxy where everyone was equal and everyone had a voice in their future. That galaxy died when you chose profit over justice. What kind of galaxy will replace it? Vextar asked. A human one, Claire said simply and left. Back on Earth, President Marcus Webb was addressing the Human Colonial Authority about the galaxy's future. My fellow humans, he began. 5 years ago, we left galactic politics because we were tired of being taken advantage of. Today we are being asked to return not as partners but as leaders. The audience listened carefully. These were the people who would decide humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. The old Galactic Council is gone, Webb continued. Most of its member species are extinct, regressed, or irrelevant. Those that remain have one thing in common. They need us more than we need them. He activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Human colonies now control the most valuable resources, the most strategic locations, and the most advanced technology. We have the strongest military, the healthiest economy, and the fastest growing population. The display showed human territory in blue. It dominated the map. The question before us is simple. Do we let the galaxy continue to collapse into chaos, or do we impose order? A voice from the audience called out, "What kind of order?" Webb smiled coldly. Human order, human law, human justice. The galaxy had its chance to govern itself fairly. It failed. Now it's our turn. Another voice. What about the species that opposed us? They can choose to accept human authority, or they can choose to be irrelevant, Webb replied. But they will not be allowed to threaten human interests ever again. The vote was not even close. Humanity would return to the galaxy, but not as diplomats or peacekeepers. They would return as conquerors. Captain Ben Rogers received the new orders while his ship was orbiting the Deltan homeworld. The Independence was no longer a diplomatic vessel. It was now the flagship of the first human Dominion fleet. All ships, this is Rogers. He transmitted to the 50 human vessels under his command. Operation New Order is now active. Begin establishment of human administrative zones throughout this sector. On the Deltan homeworld below, the aliens watched human ships fill their sky. They had asked for help with their plague. Instead, they were getting a new government. But the plague would be cured. Human nanomedicine would save millions of Deltan lives. The cost would be their independence, but they would live. It was more mercy than they had shown human slaves 5 years ago. On dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy, the same scene was playing out. Human fleets arrived not as visitors, but as new management. Some worlds welcomed them, desperate for the stability and prosperity that human rule would bring. Others resisted and learned why resistance was futile. The galaxy that had once looked down on humans as newcomers was learning that the newcomers had grown up. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and unlike the old Galactic Council, human rule would not depend on everyone agreeing to cooperate. It would depend on everyone understanding that cooperation was not optional. From his office on Earth, President Webb looked out at the stars and smiled. Humanity had tried being the good guys. It had not worked out. Being the smart guys was working much better. The galaxy had made its choice 5 years ago when it stayed silent, while human children were sold into slavery. Now it would live with the consequences of that choice forever. Commander Jake Morrison looked out the window of his ship, the UES Liberty. The massive space station ahead of them looked like nothing he had ever seen before. It was huge, with strange shapes and colors that hurt his eyes to look at. This was where humanity would finally meet the Galactic Council. Jake had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never been this nervous. Today would decide if humans could join the galaxy's biggest club. Ambassador Lisa Carter had worked for 3 years to get this meeting. She was the smartest person Jake knew, and she had studied every alien culture they could find information about. The space station was called Harmony Point. It floated around a planet that looked like Earth but was much bigger. 12 different alien races had built this place together. Jake could see their ships docked around the station. Some ships looked like giant crystals. Others were dark and scary. A few seemed to be made of light itself. Lisa walked onto the bridge where Jake stood. She wore her best diplomatic uniform and carried a case full of gifts for the aliens. Inside were paintings, music recordings, and books that showed the best of human culture. She had also brought detailed plans for trade and peace agreements. "Are you ready for this?" Jake asked her. Lisa smiled, but Jake could see she was worried too. "We've prepared for every possible situation," she said. "The aliens value peace and cooperation above all else. We're going to show them that humans can be good members of their council." The Liberty docked with the station. Jake watched through cameras as Lisa and her team walked through the airlock. The inside of the station was even stranger than the outside. The walls seemed to change colors as they walked. Strange music played from hidden speakers. The air smelled like flowers and metal at the same time. Lisa's team included Dr. Elena Martinez, who had studied alien biology for 10 years. There was also Captain Ryan Torres, a military advisor, and Professor Amy Richardson, who knew more about alien languages than anyone else on Earth. They all wore small devices that would translate their words into alien languages. The main council chamber was enormous. It had to be big enough for all the different alien types. Some aliens were tiny, like cats. Others were as big as elephants. The Zephyrians looked like walking diamonds. The Morvac were huge and covered in scales. The Veiltar were so thin they looked like ghosts. At the center of the chamber sat the High Council. The most important alien was High Counselor Vexithak. He belonged to a race called the Hegemony. He looked like a giant lizard that walked on 2 legs. His eyes were cold and mean. Jake didn't like him immediately. Lisa stepped forward and began her presentation. She talked about Earth's history, about how humans had learned to work together despite their differences. She showed them human art and played human music. She explained how humans wanted to learn from other races and share their own knowledge. The other aliens seemed interested. Some nodded their heads or did whatever their species did to show approval. The tiny cat-like aliens chittered excitedly. The crystal Zephyrians chimed like bells. Even the scary Morvac seemed to lean forward to listen better. But High Counselor Vexthak did not look happy. When Lisa finished her presentation, he stood up. His voice was deep and harsh when he spoke. "These humans," he said, making the word sound dirty, "are nothing but violent primitives. They fight wars on their own planet. They destroy their environment. They are not smart enough or civilized enough to join the Galactic Council." The chamber became very quiet. Lisa's face turned red, but she kept her voice calm. "With respect, High Counselor, humans have made great progress. We have ended most wars on our planet. We are working to fix our environmental problems. We come here in peace." Vexthak laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Peace? Your species knows only violence. I have studied your history. You are animals pretending to be civilized." Dr. Martinez whispered to Lisa that this was a formal insult under galactic law. According to the ancient rules, when one species insulted another like this, there were only 2 ways to respond. The insulted species could demand a trial by combat, or they could submit completely and admit they were inferior. Lisa had studied these laws, but she believed there had to be a third option. Humans were supposed to be peaceful. They came here to avoid fighting, not to start it. She made the decision that seemed most civilized. "We reject both combat and submission," Lisa said clearly. "We choose the path of peaceful negotiation." The silence that followed was different from before. It was the kind of silence that comes before something terrible happens. Jake, watching from his ship, felt his stomach drop. Even through the camera, he could see that something had gone very wrong. Professor Richardson grabbed Lisa's arm. Her face was white with fear. "Lisa," she whispered urgently, "that's not how the law works." By refusing both options, we just declared that humans consider themselves beneath the notice of civilized beings. High Counselor Vexthak's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. So be it, he announced to the chamber. The human species has declared itself unworthy of protection under galactic law. They are now classified as unprotected entities. Any member species may claim their territory and resources as they see fit. The other council members looked shocked. Some tried to object, but Vexthak had followed the ancient laws perfectly. There was nothing they could do to stop what came next. Within minutes, messages were flying across the galaxy. 6 different alien civilizations began moving their war fleets toward human space. The hegemony forces were already moving. The Morvac raiders started preparing their ships. Even some of the smaller alien races began planning attacks on human colonies. Lisa and her team were escorted back to their ship in shock. Jake met them at the airlock. Lisa's hands were shaking as she told him what had happened. "We came here for peace," she said, tears in her eyes. "All we wanted was to be friends with them." Jake put his hand on her shoulder. As a soldier, he understood what was coming better than the diplomats did. "Get us back to Earth as fast as possible," he told the pilot. "We need to warn everyone." As the Liberty pulled away from the station, Jake could already see alien ships moving in the distance. Humanity had tried to join the galaxy in peace. Instead, they had accidentally started the biggest war in galactic history. The worst part was that humans had no idea what they were really capable of when pushed too far. President Helen Brooks sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. The news from the space station had reached Earth 6 hours ago. Now she was staring at screens showing alien war fleets moving toward human space from 6 different directions. General Ben Parker, the head of Earth's military forces, pointed at the biggest group of red dots on the main screen. "That's the hegemony battle fleet," he said. 30 ships, each one bigger than anything we've ever built. They're heading straight for the Tau Ceti colonies. Dr. Elena Martinez was there too. She had rushed back from the failed diplomatic mission with Ambassador Carter. Her face was pale as she looked at the alien ship designs. "Their weapons are at least 300 years ahead of ours," she said quietly. "Their shields can stop anything we can throw at them. Our best missiles might as well be rocks." Captain Ryan Torres was commanding a small patrol fleet in the outer colonies when the first alien ships arrived. He had 3 human ships against 30 enemy vessels. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Ryan watched his missiles explode harmlessly against the alien shields. The enemy ships didn't even seem to notice his attacks. When they fired back, their energy beams cut through his ships like a knife through paper. The UES Defender simply vanished in a flash of light. The UES Guardian broke in half and went spinning into space. Ryan's own ship, the UES Defiant, was the only one that survived. He managed to escape only because the aliens seemed to get bored with such an easy fight. As he flew away, he sent a message back to Earth. "We're not just outgunned. We're like children, fighting adults." On the colony, world of New Portland, Governor Amy Richardson was trying to organize the evacuation of 50,000 people. The Morvac raiders were coming, and everyone knew what that meant. The Morvac didn't take prisoners. They took resources and left nothing behind. Amy had been a logistics coordinator before becoming governor. She was good at moving people and supplies, but she had never done it with alien death ships in the sky. The colonists were scared. Many of them had never seen real violence. They were farmers, scientists, and engineers who had come to New Portland to build a better life. "We have 48 hours, Amy told her emergency council. "The transport ships can take 20,000 people at a time. We need 3 trips to get everyone out." But the Morvac ships arrived early. Amy watched from the command center as the huge alien vessels landed outside the main city. The Morvac warriors were 8 feet tall and covered in thick scales. They carried weapons that could melt steel with a single shot. Amy made the hardest decision of her life. "Save who we can," she told the transport captains. "Don't wait for the 3rd trip." 30,000 people made it off New Portland. 20,000 did not. Amy Richardson was among those who stayed behind to help organize the evacuation. The last message from New Portland was her voice saying, "Tell Earth we tried our best." Similar scenes happened across human space. The colony on Ross 128 fell in 6 hours. The mining stations around Wolf 359 simply went silent. 47 human settlements were attacked in the first week of the war. Admiral Ben Parker studied the reports from every battle. The numbers were terrible. Humans were losing ships at a rate of 10 to 1. Sometimes it was worse than that. The aliens had better weapons, better shields, and better ships. But Parker noticed something strange in the battle reports. "They're being careful," he told President Brooks during their daily briefing. "Look at this data. The aliens could have wiped out our defenders completely, but they pulled back after winning. They're not fighting like they want to destroy us." Quickly, Dr. Martinez had been studying the alien attack patterns too. She had a theory that made everyone uncomfortable. "I think they're scared of us," she said. The room went quiet. General Parker shook his head. "Elena, they're winning every battle. They have ships that make ours look like toys. How can they be scared?" "Not scared of our weapons," Martinez explained. "Scared of us. Look at the way they fight. They stay far away and use long-range attacks. They use huge numbers of ships against small human fleets. On the ground, they bring 10 soldiers for every human defender." She pulled up footage from the Battle of Kepler Station. Captain Nicole Foster had commanded the defense there with just 5 human ships. When her main ship was badly damaged, she did something the aliens didn't expect. She flew her ship directly at the enemy flagship and crashed into it. "Watch their reaction," Martinez said, pointing at the screen. The alien ships immediately pulled back. They had won the battle, but they retreated anyway. Captain Foster's sacrifice confused them. Martinez had more examples. At the Battle of Proxima Base, human soldiers had continued fighting even after their base was surrounded. The Morvac warriors had expected them to surrender. Instead, the humans fought room by room until the aliens decided it wasn't worth the cost. "Every other species they've ever fought either surrenders immediately or gets destroyed in the first battle," Martinez continued. "We keep fighting back. We keep adapting. It's making them nervous." There was another pattern in the data that worried the aliens. Human survivors from early battles were becoming more dangerous. Captain Danny Rodriguez had lost his first battle against the Hegemony fleet. His ship was destroyed and most of his crew was killed. But Danny survived, and when he got a new ship, he won his next 3 battles. The same thing was happening everywhere. Human commanders who survived their first encounters with aliens were learning fast. They started using tactics the aliens couldn't predict. They began turning alien advantages into weaknesses. Captain Sophie Turner discovered that Zephyrian crystal ships couldn't change direction quickly. She started attacking them from below, where their weapons couldn't reach. Lieutenant Commander Chris Mitchell learned that Morvac warriors were almost blind in bright light. He started using floodlights to confuse them during ground battles. President Brooks saw the bigger picture forming. "They expected us to be like every other species they've conquered," she said. "But we're not giving up." The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were just another weak species that would collapse after a few defeats. Instead, they were teaching humanity how to fight a galactic war. Every battle made human survivors smarter, tougher, and more dangerous. General Parker looked at the latest reports. Yes, humans were still losing most battles. Yes, they were still outgunned and outnumbered. But something was changing. The alien victory reports were taking longer to arrive. Their casualty numbers were going up. Some of their attacks were being called off entirely. "They're starting to realize what they've done," Parker said. "They didn't attack a weak prey species. They woke up something that's learning to hunt them back." Dr. Martinez nodded. "The question is, will they figure it out before it's too late to stop what they've started?" In the depths of space, human industrial centers were already changing. Factories that had built peaceful exploration ships were now building warships. Mining operations were focusing on military materials. Research centers were studying captured alien technology. But the biggest change was happening in the human soldiers themselves. They were evolving from peaceful explorers into something the galaxy had never seen before. The aliens had wanted to crush humanity quickly. Instead, they were creating their own worst nightmare: Colonel Steve Murphy had never expected to command soldiers from 12 different countries. Before the alien invasion, he had been a simple Marine from the Mars colonies. Now he stood in a briefing room looking at officers from Russia, Japan, Brazil, India, and 8 other Earth nations. 6 months ago, we were all enemies or strangers, Steve told his mixed group of commanders. Today, we're the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. We need to work together like we've never worked before. The change is happening. On Earth amazed everyone. Countries that had been fighting each other for decades were now sharing their most secret weapons. The Russians gave their railgun technology to the Americans. The Chinese shared their stealth ship designs with the Europeans. The Indians provided their advanced computer systems to anyone who needed them. Captain Nicole Foster commanded one of the new mixed fleets. Her ships came from 6 different countries, but they fought as one unit. She had learned something important about human diversity. While the aliens all thought the same way within their species, humans brought dozens of different fighting styles to every battle. The breakthrough came at the Battle of Europa Station. Nicole was defending the moon with 8 human ships against 20 Zephyrian crystal vessels. The aliens expected her to fight like humans had before, all ships staying, together attacking from the front. Instead, Nicole split her fleet into 4 groups. Each group attacked from a different direction at the same time. The Zephyrians, who always fought in perfect geometric patterns, couldn't handle the chaos. Their commanders kept trying to reorganize their formation, but the humans wouldn't stay in one place long enough. When Nicole's flagship took critical damage, she made a decision that shocked the aliens. Instead of retreating, she ordered her ship to ram the enemy flagship. But she didn't do it alone. 3 other human ships joined her in the attack, all of them crashing into enemy vessels at the same time. The Zephyrian commander had never seen anything like it. In his species, losing a ship meant failure and shame. The idea of deliberately sacrificing ships to win a battle was completely foreign to him. When 4 more human ships immediately moved in to replace the ones that had been destroyed, he ordered his entire fleet to retreat. News of the victory spread across human space faster than light. More importantly, it reached the alien intelligence networks. For the first time, some alien commanders began to question whether humanity was the easy target they had thought. Dr. Marcus Webb was working in a secret laboratory on the far side of the moon. He had been studying brain scans of human soldiers before and after combat. What he found changed everything humans thought they knew about themselves. Look at these patterns. Marcus showed his research team. Before combat, a human brain works, normally. But after surviving a battle, especially against aliens, the brain actually rewires itself. New connections form. Old pathways become stronger. The soldier literally becomes smarter and more dangerous. The aliens had brains that were more advanced than human brains in many ways. But they were also more rigid. An alien brain worked the same way from birth to death. It couldn't adapt and change like human brains could. Every battle we survive makes us better fighters, Marcus explained in his report to military command. But every battle they fight teaches them nothing new. They're using the same tactics their species has used for thousands of years. Meanwhile, human industrial capacity was transforming at incredible speed. The shipyards around Jupiter that had built cargo haulers were now producing warships. Mining operations in the asteroid belt were focused entirely on military materials. Even civilian scientists had joined the war effort. Dr. Elena Martinez was leading a team that studied captured alien technology. Every time humans won a battle, they took pieces of alien ships back to their laboratories. Slowly, they were learning how to build weapons and shields that could match alien technology. But the most significant change was happening in individual human soldiers. Reports from across the war zones all described the same thing. Humans who survived multiple battles with aliens were becoming extraordinarily dangerous fighters. Sergeant Danny Rodriguez had survived the destruction of his first ship. When he got command of a new vessel, he used tactics that no military academy had ever taught. He would shadow alien fleets for weeks, learning their patterns, then strike when they least expected it. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Turner had developed a way of fighting that the aliens couldn't understand. Instead of defending fixed positions, her forces would disappear into space. then attack alien supply lines. The aliens would arrive at a human base, find it empty, then discover their own supply ships were under attack hundreds of miles away. The Battle of Vega Prime showed how much humans had changed. General Chris Mitchell commanded the defense of the planet with 30,000 human soldiers against 60,000 Morvac warriors. On paper, the aliens should have won easily. But Chris had learned something important about the Morvac. They were excellent warriors in direct combat, but they were terrible at fighting enemies they couldn't see. Chris ordered his forces to abandon the surface cities and retreat underground. The Morvac commanders declared victory and began landing their occupation forces. They thought the humans had surrendered. Instead, Chris had spent 3 months preparing for this moment. His soldiers had dug tunnel networks under every major city. They had studied Morvac behavior patterns and learned their weaknesses. The attacks began at night. Human soldiers would emerge from hidden tunnels, strike at alien patrols, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. They cut communication lines, destroyed supply depots, and took out key alien commanders. The Morvac warriors were used to fighting enemies who stood and fought. They had no experience dealing with an enemy that struck from the shadows and melted away like ghosts. Within a week, the mighty Morvac occupation force was begging for reinforcements. Admiral Grace Phillips was seeing the bigger picture from her command center on Earth. Human military evolution was happening faster than anyone had thought possible. Soldiers who had been civilian volunteers a year ago were now displaying tactical brilliance that amazed professional military officers. "We're not the same species we were when this war started," Grace told President Brooks during their weekly briefing. "The aliens attacked us thinking we were weak and primitive. Instead, they're teaching us to become the most dangerous military force in the galaxy." The proof was in the numbers. Human casualty rates were dropping rapidly. Alien casualty rates were climbing. More importantly, alien forces were beginning to retreat from human space without being defeated in battle. The psychological impact of fighting humans was breaking their will to fight. But the most shocking development was yet to come. For the first time in galactic history, a species that had been marked for extinction was not just surviving. Human fleets were beginning to appear in alien territory, carrying the war back to the species that had started it. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Danny Rodriguez stared at his ship's display screen. According to every sensor, the UES Phantom was dead. The hull was cracked, the engines were offline, and life support was failing. But Danny and his crew were still very much alive, and they had work to do. "Remember, we're supposed to be a wreck floating in space," Danny told his skeleton crew of 12 volunteers. "No active scans, no communications, no movement until they get close." The Hegemony patrol fleet was approaching. Their position, 6 massive alien warships, each one powerful enough to destroy a human city. They had come to investigate reports of human ships in their territory. What they found was apparently just space debris from an earlier battle. Danny had pioneered this new tactic 6 months ago. His ships would fake their own destruction, then strike when the enemy least expected it. The aliens called these vessels ghost ships because they seemed to come back from the dead. The lead Hegemony ship moved closer to investigate the wreckage. Danny could see the alien commander through his telescope, a typical reptilian Hegemony, officer arrogant and careless. The alien probably thought this would be a routine inspection. "Now," Danny whispered. The Phantom's hidden weapons burst to life. Missiles and energy beams struck the alien flagship from point-blank range. Before the Hegemony commander could react, his ship's bridge exploded. The other 5 alien vessels tried to return fire, but Danny's ship was already moving, using debris from the fake battle as cover. Within minutes, 3 of the 6 Hegemony ships were destroyed. The other 3 fled in panic, sending desperate messages about ships that wouldn't stay dead. This scene was being repeated across the galaxy. Human forces had stopped playing defense. Now they were hunting alien fleets in their own territory, using tactics that no alien military had ever encountered. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Turner had taken the hunting concept even further. Her fleet didn't fight battles at all. Instead, they stalked alien supply convoys like wolves hunting deer. She would shadow enemy forces for weeks, learning their routes and schedules. Sophie's ships would strike at the moment of maximum vulnerability. When alien fleets stopped to refuel, her forces would attack the fuel depot. When alien commanders gathered for meetings, her ships would destroy their communication centers. When alien supply ships traveled between worlds, they would simply disappear. The psychological impact on alien forces was devastating. Morvac warriors, bred from birth to be fearless fighters, were developing stress disorders that their species had no name for. They reported fighting the same human ships multiple times, watching them die in battle, then facing them again in the next engagement. The Battle of Vega Prime had become a legend among alien military circles, but not the kind of legend they wanted. General Chris Mitchell's underground resistance had not only defeated the Morvac occupation, they had turned the entire planet into a trap. When hegemony reinforcements arrived to help the Morvac, they found a world that looked peaceful on the surface. Cities appeared normal. Supply depots seemed well stocked. Landing zones looked secure. But it was all an illusion. Chris had spent months studying his enemies. He knew that hegemony officers followed strict schedules. He knew that Morvac warriors had poor night vision. He knew that Zephyrian crystal beings could be confused by certain sound frequencies. The trap was perfect. As soon as the alien reinforcements landed, they walked into a nightmare. Every building could hide human fighters. Every supply depot was booby-trapped. Every communication tower had been sabotaged. But the most terrifying part for the aliens was that humans seemed to know everything about them. Their sleep schedules, their meal times, their patrol routes, their personal habits. It was as if the humans had been watching them for months, learning their every weakness. They had been. Chris's soldiers were patient hunters, and they had turned their enemies into prey. Admiral Grace Phillips was coordinating the human expansion into alien space from her new command center on Europa. The war had changed her from a defensive commander into something much more dangerous, a strategic predator. "We're not just fighting battles anymore," Grace told her staff officers. "We're rewriting the rules of galactic warfare. Every engagement teaches us something new about our enemies. Every victory makes us stronger." The numbers supported her confidence. Human forces were no longer losing ships at a 10-to-1 ratio. Now they were destroying alien vessels faster than they could be replaced. More importantly, entire alien fleets were surrendering rather than face human forces in battle. Dr. Marcus Webb's research had revealed the secret to human success. While alien brains followed predictable patterns, human minds literally rewired themselves during combat. Each battle made human soldiers smarter, faster, and more intuitive fighters. "We're evolving in real time," Marcus explained to the military leadership. "Our brains are adapting to the stress of interstellar warfare at a rate that should be impossible. Within a generation, we'll be a completely different species from the humans who first left Earth." The aliens were beginning to understand this, and it terrified them. Species that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years were facing an enemy that became more dangerous with every encounter. Captain Ryan Torres, now Admiral Torres, commanded fleets that included captured alien vessels. Human engineers had reverse-engineered enemy technology and improved it. Hegemony dreadnoughts under human command were faster, more maneuverable, and deadlier than they had ever been in alien hands. "The irony is beautiful," Ryan told his mixed fleet of human and captured alien ships. "They gave us their technology by attacking us with it. Now we're using their own weapons against them, and we're better at it than they are." The transformation wasn't just military. Human society itself was changing. The old divisions between nations, races, and cultures were disappearing. Faced with extinction, humanity had discovered its true nature as a unified hunting pack. President Helen Brooks watched reports from across human space. Factory worlds were producing ships and weapons at rates that amazed even human economists. Research centers were developing new technologies faster than they could be tested. Most importantly, every human settlement was contributing to the war effort. But perhaps the most significant change was in human psychology. The species that had once valued peace above all else had discovered they were natural-born warriors. Not the crude, violent kind of warriors that the aliens expected, but sophisticated predators who could think, adapt, and hunt with scientific precision. The galaxy was learning a lesson that would reshape interstellar civilization. Never attack a species unless you're absolutely certain you can destroy them completely, because if you fail, you might create something far more dangerous than anything that existed before. High Counselor Vexthak, the alien who had started this war with his insults, was receiving reports that made his blood run cold. Human fleets were approaching hegemony home systems. Planets that had been secure for millennia were being evacuated. The mighty hegemony military was in full retreat. "What have we done?" he asked his advisors. "We wanted to eliminate a minor annoyance. Instead, we've created monsters."